Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely shatter the illusion that plants are just, static background decorations. We pass by them literally every day, sitting in pots on our windowsills, lining the sidewalks, and we kind of just assume they're totally still. But what if I told you that a plant is actually this highly dynamic, super sensitive organism that's constantly taking in its environment and making complex survival decisions? So let's just dive right into the core puzzle here. If a plant doesn't have a nervous system, how does it know which way is up? How on earth does it know where the water is hiding down in the soil? Or when it's exactly the right time to drop its leaves for winter? I mean, animals use a rapid-fire nervous system to run and jump and react. Plants don't have a brain or muscles, yet they survive beautifully. How? Well, to answer that, we're going to break this whole hidden language down into 5 quick chapters. Plants in motion, the chemical messengers, ripening and stress management, the rules of tropism, and finally, navigating the elements. Okay, Chapter 1, Plants in Motion. Let's get into the basic mechanics of how these guys actually operate. The absolute crucial thing to grasp here is that a plant's ability to bend, twist, and grow is driven entirely by chemical control. Unlike animals, plants make their own food, right? So getting up and walking to the grocery store just isn't necessary. Instead of muscles and nerves, their incredible sensitivity and coordination come down to a purely chemical response to whatever is happening around them. Moving on to Chapter 2, the chemical messengers. Let's meet the cast of characters pulling the strings inside the stem. We call them phytohormones. Fun fact, the word hormone was actually first used way back in 1902 by William Bayliss and Ernest Starling. In this case, the prefix phyto just means plant. So these phytohormones are basically chemical compounds produced in one area, say the very tip of a root, and then shipped off to another area to act as messengers. They dictate pretty much the whole show, either hitting the gas on growth or actively slamming on the brakes. There are 5 major players you need to know about: auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, ethylene, and abscisic acid. Think of them as the plant's chemical command center. Like we just talked about, some of these are specifically designed to stimulate rapid growth, while others are there to keep things in check. Let's zoom in on the first one, because auxins are absolutely fascinating. They are incredibly powerful growth stimulants, even in super tiny amounts. They work by causing the plant's cell walls to literally loosen up and physically stretch out. It's almost like pulling a rubber band under tension. And it gets crazier. Not only do they keep leaves from aging, but they can actually trigger fruit development without any fertilization happening at all. It's a process called parthenocarpy, and yes, that is the exact reason we have seedless bananas and apples. Pretty cool, right? Next up, we've kind of got these 2 competing forces. On one hand, gibberellins are the alarm clocks. They wake seeds up from dormancy and promote stem stretching. Farmers actually use them to make dwarf plants grow super tall. On the other hand, cytokinins are like the youth serum of the plant world. They're working overtime to stimulate rapid cell division and delay aging, basically keeping the plant looking vibrant and young. Chapter 3, Ripening and Stress Management. Because as we all know, endless growth isn't everything. A plant needs to know when to mature and how to handle a crisis. Okay, this one is wild. Ethylene. It is totally unique because it's the only plant hormone that actually exists as a gas at room temperature. Think about a banana going from green to perfectly yellow to brown. That gas is physically off-gassing from the fruit, speeding up the sweetening process. In fact, farmers figured this out historically when they realized that storing a ripening, gas-emitting orange right next to a rock-hard green banana would cause the banana to ripen super fast. But hey, survival isn't all sunshine and sweet fruit. Enter abscisic acid, or ABA. If the other hormones are the gas pedal, ABA is the emergency brake. It is literally the plant's panic button. When there's a terrible drought or a sudden freeze, ABA floods the system. It stops seeds from sprouting in bad weather, forces leaves to drop, and slams the leaf pores shut to desperately lock in whatever water is left. It's the ultimate stress manager. Chapter 4, The Rules of Tropism. So we've mapped out all these invisible chemical messengers, but how does that translate into physical movement that we can actually see? That brings us to tropism. The word tropic comes from a Greek root meaning to turn. When a plant senses a stimulus coming from just one direction, like sunlight beaming through a single window, it responds by physically growing towards or away from it. This is the visible, tangible proof of those hormones going to work. Before we look at some real-world examples, just remember this one golden rule of plant movement. If the plant grows toward the stimulus, that's a positive response. If it actively backs away and grows in the opposite direction, that's a negative response. Simple as that.
Chapter 5, Navigating the Elements. Let's see how plants use these exact rules to conquer their environment.
First up is phototropism, which is the response to light. You've probably seen this if you have a houseplant near a window. The whole thing leans towards the glass, right? That's a positive response to maximize photosynthesis. But underneath the soil, the roots are doing the exact opposite. They display negative phototropism, actively growing away from the light to dig deeper into the dark earth.
But seriously, how does a stiff green stem actually bend toward a window? Well, remember auxins, our favorite growth hormone? It turns out auxins really hate direct sunlight. When light hits one side of a stem, the auxins quickly migrate and hide out on the shady, darker side. Since auxins supercharge cell growth, the cells in the shade grow way faster and longer than the cells getting baked in the sun. That lopsided growth literally forces the top of the stem to bow forward toward the light.
Now, that exact same chemical logic applies to geotropism, the response to gravity. If a potted plant gets knocked over, it doesn't just awkwardly keep growing sideways. Thanks to gravity sensing mechanisms, the stem eventually curves back upward, giving a negative geotropic response by defying gravity. Meanwhile, the roots curve downward, showing a positive response as they seek the earth. Scientists actually prove this using this really cool lab gadget called a clinostat. If you put a sideways plant on a clinostat and slowly rotate it, every side of the plant feels the pull of gravity equally. Because it's perfectly balanced, the plant gets completely confused and just grows straight out horizontally. But look at the stationary plant. Gravity is pulling down on just one side, the hormones react, and boom, it dramatically bends straight up. But what if water and gravity go head to head? Check out this awesome sawdust experiment showing hydrotropism. Seeds are sprouted on a wire mesh with wet sawdust placed right above them. At first, gravity pulls the roots down, but pretty soon they realize the only water source is actually above them. Incredibly, the roots pull a U-turn and grow straight up, totally fighting gravity. Spoiler alert, for roots, the thirst for water is a way stronger drive than the pull of gravity. Then there's thigmototropism, which is the response to touch. Weak-stemmed plants, like sweet peas, have these hypersensitive thread-like tendrils. The second a tendril brushes against a solid support, like a bamboo stick, that physical touch sends a rapid chemical signal. The tendril violently coils around the stick, basically lassoing it, which lets the flimsy plant safely climb toward the sun. And finally, we've got heliotropism. If you've ever driven past a field of young sunflowers, you know they literally track the sun from east to west all day long. This happens because light-sensitive auxins are continuously shuffling to the shaded side of the thick stem as the sun moves. This constant rolling wave of growth hormone forces that heavy flower head to just continuously pivot, bowing to the sunlight from dawn until dusk. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. They don't have a brain, they don't have a heartbeat, and they definitely don't have a nervous system. But plants are highly sensitive, incredibly dynamic survivors. They're out there calculating gravity, measuring daylight, hunting for water, and communicating through a complex chemical language that we're only just starting to fully appreciate. Next time you walk past a simple potted fern, ask yourself, what invisible signals is it reacting to right this very second? Thanks so much for joining me, and keep exploring the amazing world right outside your window.